Charlie Watts was more than just the drummer for the Rolling Stones. He was the steady heartbeat of one of rock's most legendary bands, a quiet force whose presence anchored decades of music history. When he passed away in 2021, the world mourned the loss of a man whose rhythm had shaped the sound of a generation. Yet, in a move that surprised many, his bandmates, Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, and Ronnie Wood, were notably absent from his funeral. This absence sparked questions and speculation, but the truth behind it reveals a story far more complex and deeply human than anyone expected. The roots of this story stretch back to the mid-1980s, a turbulent chapter in Watts's life that few knew about. For years, he had been the calm counterbalance to the wild excesses of his bandmates. While Jagger and Richards made headlines for their rock and roll lifestyles, Watts was known for his quiet moderation. But around 1983, that image began to crack. His use of alcohol and drugs, once controlled, spiraled into something far more destructive. Watts later confessed that his substance use wasn't about chasing the rock star high, it was a desperate way to cope with mounting family troubles. "They were my way of dealing with family problems," he admitted. "I think it was a midlife crisis. All I know is that I became totally another person around 1983 and came out of it about 1986. I nearly lost my wife and everything over my behavior." This revelation was startling, especially coming from a man often described as the Stones' moral compass. His wife Shirley, who had stood by him since before the band's rise to fame, endured those difficult years with unwavering loyalty. Watts recognized that if he didn't change, he risked losing not only his marriage but his very identity. By the late 1980s, he had regained control, even quitting smoking, a significant step for a man who had spent decades under the relentless demands of touring and recording. But life wasn't done testing him. In 2004, Watts was diagnosed with throat cancer. The news shocked fans and bandmates alike. He endured months of grueling radiotherapy before the cancer went into remission. Reflecting on that time, Watts recalled, "I went into hospital and 8 months later Mick said, 'We're going to do a record, but we'll only do it when you're ready.'" True to their word, the Stones waited. When Watts was strong enough, he returned to the studio, contributing to the 2005 album A Bigger Bang. Soon after, he embarked on a punishing 2-year world tour, joking that, "Whenever we stop, I get ill, so maybe I should carry on." For the next decade and a half, Watts defied the toll of age and illness, continuing to tour and record. But by 2021, his health again became a concern. On August 5, the band announced Watts would sit out the resumption of their no-filter U.S. tour after undergoing heart surgery. To fill his place, they called on Steve Jordan, a longtime friend and collaborator, to step in temporarily. Just weeks later, on August 24, Charlie Watts passed away quietly at the Royal Brompton Hospital in London, aged 80. His death from squamous cell carcinoma was marked by dignity and privacy, surrounded by family rather than flashing cameras. The news sent shockwaves through the music world. His bandmates and former members paid heartfelt tributes. Jagger shared a joyful photo of Watts laughing, Richards posted a poignant image of a drum kit with a closed sign, and Wood spoke of their brotherhood. Even Bill Wyman, who had left the band decades earlier, remembered Watts as a beautiful man. Beyond the Stones, tributes poured in from rock legends and peers. Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, Elton John, Brian Wilson, Pete Townsend, Nick Mason, Roger Daltrey, and many others. To them, Watts was not just a drummer but a gentleman of rock, a rare blend of skill, humility, and grace. The Rolling Stones official website became a digital shrine, replacing every page with a single black-and-white image of Watts for 10 days, a silent, powerful homage. 2 days after his death, musicians Jason Isbell and Brittany Spencer dedicated a live cover of Gimme Shelter to Watts, a testament to his far-reaching influence. On August 27, the band shared a moving video tribute set to their 1974 track If You Can't Rock Me, a song that perfectly captured Watts's quiet dynamism and subtle humor. Watts's funeral was a private, low-key affair in Devon, reflecting the man's lifelong aversion to spectacle. Former tour manager Sam Cutler summed it up simply, "Charlie would have hated a fuss." The Stones respected that wish, choosing to honor him in ways that matched his understated style. Every night of the No Filter tour, they opened with a tribute video of Watts behind his drum kit, and the iconic tongue and lips logo was altered to black and white, a subtle but profound symbol of mourning. Now, here's the question that often comes up. Why didn't the Rolling Stones attend Charlie Watts' funeral? The answer lies in a mix of logistics, respect, and the realities of the pandemic. The time of Watts' death, the band was deep into rehearsals for their long-delayed No Filter US tour in Boston. This was no casual warm-up. It was a massive, meticulously coordinated production involving hundreds of crew members, lighting experts, sound engineers, and stage designers. Canceling or pausing would have caused significant financial losses and disrupted the livelihoods of many. International travel restrictions due to COVID-19 complicated matters further. Flights between the US and UK required strict quarantine periods, meaning Jagger, Richards, and Wood would have faced weeks of isolation, time they simply didn't have. The risk of canceling the tour was too great, especially since fans had already waited over a year due to pandemic delays. Health and safety concerns also played a role. The Delta variant was spreading rapidly, and any unnecessary exposure could have sidelined key members of the band or crew. Most importantly, Charlie Watts himself valued privacy and simplicity. His funeral was exactly the kind of intimate, low-profile farewell he would have wanted. The Stones honored that by keeping their tributes personal and meaningful rather than public spectacles. Looking back, Watts' journey with the Rolling Stones began in the early 1960s. Already a respected jazz drummer in London's club scene, he met Brian Jones, Ian Stewart, Mick Jagger, and Keith Richards, musicians who shared a passion for rhythm and blues. Though the chemistry was instant, Watts didn't join immediately. He had a steady income from jazz gigs while the Stones were still struggling. It wasn't until January 1963 that he officially became their drummer, a decision that solidified the band's lineup and set them on a path to global fame. His first public performance as a permanent member was at the Ealing Jazz Club in February 1963, a venue central to the British R&B movement. From then on, Watts' steady, unflashy drumming became the backbone of the Stones' sound. Jagger affectionately called him the Wembley Whammer, a nod to his hometown and his powerful, precise style. But Watts was more than a drummer. He was a talented visual artist who contributed to the band's image and stagecraft. He created graphic art and comic strips for album sleeves and masterminded memorable publicity stunts, like the 1975 New York City tour announcement where the band played Brown Sugar on a flatbed truck rolling down Fifth Avenue, a nod to New Orleans jazz traditions. His artistic vision extended to the Stones' elaborate stage designs, collaborating closely with Jagger on tours that blended music and theater in groundbreaking ways. From the lotus-shaped stage in 1975 to the massive productions of the Steel Wheels, Bridges to Babylon, Licks, and A Bigger Bang tours, Watts' influence was profound. Watts' professionalism was legendary. Over nearly 6 decades, he never missed a concert, a testament to his dedication. His final live performance was in August 2019 at Miami's Hard Rock Stadium, closing out the No Filter tour before the pandemic halted live music worldwide. Alongside Jagger and Richards, he was one of the few members to appear on every Rolling Stones album, his precise, economical drumming the secret to the band's enduring groove. Even after his death, Watts' presence lingered. In October 2023, the Stones released Hackney Diamonds, their first studio album in 18 years, featuring 2 tracks with Watts on drums, recorded before he passed, a bittersweet reminder of his timeless touch. Offstage, Watts' life was marked by deep love and loyalty. He married Shirley Ann Shepherd in 1964, a relationship that lasted 57 years until her passing in 2022. Unlike many rock stars, Watts kept his marriage private and stable, crediting Shirley with grounding him through the chaos of fame. They had 1 daughter, Serafina, and a granddaughter, Charlotte. Their home in rural North Devon was a sanctuary, where Watts indulged his passion for Arabian horses, running a stud farm that offered peace far from the spotlight. Friends described this side of him as meticulous, patient, and quietly joyful. He was also financially savvy, holding stakes in the Stones' corporate ventures. Interestingly, Watts never learned to drive, preferring to admire cars as works of art rather than practical machines, a reflection of his unique, private nature. He was also an avid cricket fan, collecting memorabilia with the same care he applied to music and art, connecting him to a quieter, traditional world. This balance between the roaring stadiums and the serene countryside defined Watts's life. A legendary rock drummer and a man devoted to family, nature, and simple pleasures. What do you think about Charlie Watts's legacy? How do you see the balance he struck between fame and privacy? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm curious to know what you think. If you found this story compelling, please like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the lives of music legends. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.